Okay, I'm BretnDuncil, and I teach social studies at Lee County Elementary, 5th grade. And the reason I'm here today is because of the Go Anywhere Classroom Grant. And Jay Daly, could you please stand up? This is one of my team teachers, and he's the reason I'm here today. He's the reason behind my doodle. I'd like to hang him, but we love him. Anyway, we did the Go Anywhere Classroom, and the reason behind the Go Anywhere Classroom is that we don't have a lot of money in our school district to go on field trips. And we talk about a lot of things in the class, in our social studies lessons that affect our daily lives. We talk about the branches of government. We talk about the different wars that the United States have been in. And we talk about Washington, D.C., Frankfurt. We do go to Frankfurt on the field trip, though. So the kids don't get to go a lot of places. And what I wanted to do was to make sure that they were engaged, that they could get additional information other than the textbook or the worksheets or whatever we were doing, the brain pop videos and this and that. So we came up with the Go Anywhere Classroom. We can go anywhere we want to in the world via the internet. And we got 5 Chromebooks to do that. And now we've got an additional 25, so we have a one-to-one in the classroom. When we do social studies, we've got a cart with 30 Chromebooks, so we had 25 and added the 5 I got through the grants. We have enough for this classroom. So basically, this is my homeroom class, and they're watching videos at this time of the Panama Canal and how it works. And that was part of our social studies lesson. We were talking about the early explorers and how they walked across the Isthmus of Panama and how they discovered that the Atlantic Ocean was on one side and 20-some miles on the other side was the Pacific Ocean. And we got to talking about how they built the Panama Canal, and the U.S. was behind that. And here's our little gentleman. And they said, well, they built the Panama Canal through the Isthmus of Panama, Mr. D. Okay, well, how did they do it? Well, they had to take their Chromebooks, and they were actually watching videos of ships going through the Panama Canal. And some of the ships were so big, there were 6 inches on either side of the ship, and the concrete that close to the ship, so they had to be very careful as they went through. But they said they didn't have to build the canal completely through the Isthmus of Panama because there's lakes there, and they used the lakes and they used the locks going through. So they watched the videos, they found additional information, and one of the kids was like, oh, look, it says 6 inches on each side of this ship. And then one of them's like, well, what happens if they hit the wall? Well, there's going to be a little damage there to the ship and maybe the concrete. So they were finding additional stuff. Here we were out in the hall and had them in groups, and this is what it would have looked like if we'd have just had the 5 Chromebooks, but since we've got one for everybody, every now and then I'd like to change it up on them and put them out in groups, and they have to find additional information and talk about World War II. So here's one of our little ladies, and she's got her Chromebook up, and she's got additional information there that we found on World War II. So the kids were talking about, well, in World War II, Nazi control in Europe was a big problem. The United States hadn't actually joined yet. And then when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, the United States actually entered World War II. So they're getting additional information. They're kind of competing with each other. They're very engaged. They talk about the stuff. And then when they have a disagreement or they find something really cool, they'll say, hey, Mr. D, I don't agree with them, or she doesn't agree with me, or what do you think about this? And then if they find something really cool, we'll put it up on the smart board and we'll all talk about it, and they just fall all over themselves to get this extra information. And it's funny sometimes. You can just see the lights come on, and they're so engrossed and so engaged in what we're doing that it's amazing. All right, this one, they're out in the hall again, and they're working in groups to find different information on what we were covering that day, and I forget what it was. Here there's a girl talking about the Civil War. She found some additional information, and there were some things on this one that really stuck out. So they can tell you every morning, I put a bell ringer up on the board, and a lot of times one of the questions deals with the Civil War. They'll tell you that there's 3 main causes of the Civil War: states' rights, tariffs, and slavery. And tariffs and slavery kind of fit under the states' rights heading. Well, at the end of the Civil War, and I'm going to throw this out to you all, the Civil War ended where? Where did Lee sign surrender papers to General Grant? Appomattox Courthouse. Okay, so what is Appomattox Courthouse? Is it the courthouse? It's a what? So we explain it. They're like, it wasn't in the courthouse. No, it was not. It's Appomattox Court House. So it was in a small burg. That's why they call it a courthouse in the South. And if it's a compound word courthouse, that's what you have in like Badeville, Boonville, Campton. You go to the courthouse to get your driver's license renewed or whatever. So one of them was like, this isn't it was in a farmhouse here. It's like, yeah, cool. So they get additional information by looking it up on the Chromebook. And then if there's any reenactments or something like that, the Battle of Gettysburg, something like that, we can watch it on the Chromebook and watch the reenactments, and they can see how they marched in a line, how they fought at that time, and they think that's pretty cool too. And here's another little gentleman that got some more information, and if you could see real close, that's the brain pop on the Civil War. So he's like, look, I love this. Look at this one, Mr. D. So we put him up in front of the class. These two lovely ladies, they think my son's cute. I've got an 18-year-old in the United States Marine Corps. Okay, I've got a 10-month-old and a 6-year-old in the middle. But the oldest one's in the Marine Corps, and they like to know what my son Dylan's doing. So every now and then they'll say, hey, Mr. D, can we find out where Dylan's at? Can we look up the base that he's on? Can we kind of see what he's doing? So we've watched appropriate videos on Paris Island in the boot camp. They like to see that one. They've watched videos where they come out of the gas chamber and snot's running, and some of them are puking. They think that's funny. Did Dylan have to do that? No, he didn't get to go through the gas chamber because of some things that happened before he joined the Marines. But they like to know where he's at. So they've looked up Paris Island, and now he's at Camp Lejeune, and they look up stuff on Camp Lejeune to see what the base looks like. And when we have extra time and they've done really good, we look up extra stuff on Dylan. So Dylan's still at Lejeune. He's now in Yuma, Arizona, and he's getting acclimated to the desert. And then I think 2 days ago they moved him to 29 Palms, which is like Badeville in the desert in California, if you can imagine that. So they like to keep up with him and know what he's doing. So when we have extra time, that's just another thing they learn about the armed forces and the military and what it takes to be in that, which I think is appropriate because some of those young men and women, that might be the only way they have to get out of Badeville later on. But they like to see that. Here they are watching a video of a place that we can't go to because we have no money. Okay, and we watch videos all the time of different places. When we talk about it in the book, we'll look up Washington, D.C. We can't go there. We've talked about Richmond, Virginia in the Civil War. We talk about the Grand Canyon, Statue of Liberty. We can't go to those places. So we pull it up on the internet. And then this kind of morphed into, not only are we going to engage them by watching videos of places we can't go to, now they have to dig up extra info. So they're giving me little tidbits to add to the lesson, to add to what we're doing by watching the videos. And here they're just getting extra information. And we come back together as a group. We discuss it and bat it around the room and see what everybody thinks. And it's pretty cool to see their responses. And I wish I could write down some of the things that they say and make a book out of it because it's hilarious. And sometimes they make me think about things, and I'm like, dude, I never really looked at it from that angle. But, yeah, you got a good point there. And here, this one was hilarious. He brings up a picture of the Watergate Hotel. We just covered this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the 70s and Richard Nixon. And now the kids can say, he lied to our country for 2 years. When they went into the Watergate Hotel and they tapped the phones and did this and did that, then he lied to the country for 2 years before he resigned, and one of the kids found a little tidbit of information. He got pardoned. Mr. D, do you know who pardoned him? Yeah, I do. Who pardoned him? The guy that was vice president, Gerald Ford, he pardoned him when he became president. When Nixon resigned, he pardoned him. Why did he do that? I don't know. Why did he do that? And some of the other ones in the back were, I know why. That was a done deal before he ever became president, wasn't it? I don't know. Probably you're right. So they find little tidbits of information, and it's funny. It's interesting. It adds to the lesson. It makes them all kind of curious, and every time they find something that's not in the textbook or in a workbook that we've done, they bring it up and we talk about it, and it does make our lessons better. It engages them. So the Go Anywhere classroom has helped bring places around the world to the classroom. The Chromebooks have helped to engage the students. They provide them with pertinent information about places, and it allowed them to experience these places via the internet that we could not make it to because our funding won't allow it. We can get on a school bus, but we can't get on a plane. We can't go around the world. And this has opened up doors. It's opened up things to them that they wouldn't have got to see before because it's not in their textbooks. And the videos, you won't get in the textbook, but we do get it because we have the Chromebooks and the internet access now, and it really engages them. They enjoy it. And if you could just be in there a few minutes and see some of them and see the lights go on in their eyes, you would say, yep, this is a good thing. Sometimes electronics is not a good thing in the classroom. This is kind of structured. They use it appropriately, and they have fun. So that's the Go Anywhere classroom. Thank you, Mr. Daly.